to the finish. They're all in. Top Step Podcast. Let the race begin.
G'day everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Top Step Podcast. I am Stuart Brown and this is...
Rhyss.
We're here for the second episode, mate.
Hey mate, how you going?
Yeah, good. It's been a very, very busy period between this episode and the last episode. There is so much stuff to talk about. I'm glad you're doing that. The end of a workday and definitely time to say cheers and get on with another episode of the Top Step.
Absolutely.
We've got a lot to cover tonight. There's plenty of news to talk about, some things that we found, and of course we have the season launch for F1 75 or F1 15, depending on how you read the logo that they came up with.
It's a little bit different, but anyway.
A little bit challenging to read, but the F1's always done things their own way, so why would that be any different? So we're going to get through some news. We'll have a chat about that and the liveries, and have a chat about some records that might be broken at the end of the show as well. So we'll get straight into it without wasting any time. I've done a little bit of work in between shows to start bringing some more information to you as well. So if you're not watching, if you're listening on Spotify, you can bring up the show as well and have a watch. Just don't do it while you're driving or silly like that. And of course, we are on YouTube and on TikTok, so jump across and have a look at us there and give us a follow. Of course, it always helps with us. It would help us, I should say, grow the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's get into it. I saw this last week. We saw. Do you remember last year there were some issues with stake.com and the potential way that they get around doing their business, and they're obviously they're tied up with Hick.
Yeah, see, I'd actually completely forgotten until we spoke, and then everything come flooding back, and I was like, oh yes, and then everything sort of snowballed from there, and the remembering of how they're connected and how they work and how they sort of fund everything.
Yeah, so Kick, obviously the streaming service, we're not on Kick, but the owners of Stake, which are a betting company, and the UK have banned stake.com from or revoked their license, I should say, maybe in the UK. For using a porn star to promote them. So I'm not sure what implication there'll be for Sauber when they get to Silverstone later in the season. So this one was just a watch and wait to see what happens, because of course that's something that they don't need in addition to all the other troubles they've got. And of course they lost their porn star looking driver in the off season as well. He's now at Mercedes. So...
Mercedes reserve driver.
Absolutely. And interesting, I saw just, that's good that you brought that up, because I did see a comment from him somewhere suggesting for how long.
Yeah, well, he's come out and said that he doesn't think that anything that he signed or put into place is going to sort of hinder him from racing, and the team aren't going to hold him back. So I wonder what conversations have obviously been had behind closed doors there.
Yeah, he may end up taking over if things don't go so well early in the season at Stake, but we spoke about that at length last week.
Yeah, but I'm also not sure after seeing some of the things he's come out and said about Stake. I think he was pressing a logo onto a T-shirt, and he said they had to hold for 30 seconds, which still wasn't as slow as his slowest pit stop last year. So I'm not sure he'd want to go back, even if it meant he was driving, unless the car is a completely different machine.
Yeah, true. Very true. So we'll keep moving through this because we've got a lot to cover. I wanted to get your opinion on this one, because I'm a little bit tainted as far as Jacques Villeneuve is concerned. So before I say anything, joining or rejoining Williams, of course, where he won his Drivers' World title. So his, I guess, home in Formula One world.
Formula One, yep.
What do you make of this?
I'm not sure. I feel like Williams was heading in the right direction in terms of new and a new way of thinking and a new world. And I'm not sure if bringing in, I know that he was successful in Williams and things like that, but Williams is the biggest proof that, the old way doesn't work anymore. And I'm conflicted in it, because I'm not sure what sort of ambassador he will be, and working with the team if it's so far out of Formula One and so different now. And they're one of the most successful Formula One team ever, and haven't been for some time. So I don't know if stepping backwards and bringing people back is a good move, where they seem to be making leaps and bounds by stepping away from that old way, and they seem to be heading in the right direction. So I was a little bit, taken back by this because I thought with the direction that they were heading was a good way. Bringing things from the past mightn't be the way to go for them.
Yeah, I wonder if they've taken. I mean, it's an ambassador role.
But who now? Obviously, yeah. Um, who now knows who he is?
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, he did something once and then hung on for way too long. Is my summary of his career, but he because he came out and said all this stuff about Danny Rick, and of course we're massive Danny Rick fans, so that doesn't help. But he didn't actually have anything constructive to say, and so
But he hasn't also had not even I'm not even going to step into this what he said about Dan Eric because that's where my negative view sort of started from him. But the things that he say, some things that he says, sorry, aren't that don't come factual. So I'm just wondering what sort of role he will be be playing there.
it'll be interesting to see. But I think you're right as well. Williams have moved on, and I'm surprised to see them bring him back as an ambassador. Maybe there's some other stuff there that they're trying to get sponsorship or a Canadian tie-in.
And
Um,
and that
sure.
and that's great for them because obviously more sponsorship, more dollars, more all of that is great for the team and great moving forward. But I just we'll see how this one plays out for them.
Speaking of people making opinions, our battle to keep Jack Doohan at Alpine continues. Juan Pablo Montoya, who, again, I mean, talk about underachievers in Formula One. This guy came in with the hallmarks of being the greatest Formula One driver of all time, or he was carrying that with him when he arrived and did basically, I think he managed to take out Schumacher a couple of times, and other than that, didn't really achieve a hell of a lot. He's done more outside of Formula One than he has in Formula One, of course. But why he needs to comment on Jack Doohan and what's going on at Alpine, I have absolutely no idea why. And I get it's one of those things where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, but he's a pundit, like so he's there making social commentary and stuff." But I'm just not sure that this is the thing to add fuel to. Like, can we just leave Jack alone and let him get
You
on with
leave Jack alone.
it?
It's the same story as all the Daniel Ricciardo things for so long. People's views on him and what was going to happen to him, and even now after the race, I feel like these sort of personalities sort of see something to grab onto, and it's like, oh, I need to get my name back out there. I need to be, in the forefront of
Relevant.
the news or relevant. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. To remain relevant, and so they need to comment on something that is already been commented on so many times. We're so, obviously we're closer now to the first season than the first race than we were last week, and there's even been more of the same thing come out where we just need to wait and see.
Yeah, and I saw Jack come out, and I'm loving him more and more and more as we're starting to see him in the media because I think he's doing a great job of handling the pressure. Where he responded to another question about, I think he got three questions in a row at the launch on the carpet leading into the launch. And good on Alpine as well, who jumped in and told the press to stop asking him the same stupid question in a much more polite way. But he said, I was a reserve driver last year. I was a reserve driver at a team last year. I was a contracted reserve driver for like 5 years. Like the situation with Colapinto isn't that different to what he was doing last year. So he's handling it really well. So we're firmly in his corner. It's great to hear an Aussie accent again
Yes.
out
Yeah.
on the out on the runway. But yeah, I thought he did a great job of it. So
Yeah, you nailed it there.
so when this came out, when this came out, I I get what he's saying. I get what he's saying, and I know there'll be people who watch the show who think we're going to be Lando bashers, and we're not. Um, but I get saying this, but one of the things that I always got taught when I was playing sport as a kid is don't tell everyone what you're going to do. Just go out there and do it. And so why he has to come out and say he's ready to go against Max, like he's got his training wheels off his Formula One car and he's
Yeah.
ready to go up against it, is just beyond me. And Max will be loving that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in his head already.
Absolutely. It's Max will just being the only thing he's thought about in the entire off season. But I so what was his job last year? What was he doing last year?
A participation award.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he got the
That was
participation award.
Oh, okay. Yep. So he definitely wasn't ready last year.
So
Um,
and you take into this, and I ask you this: if you're Oscar, what are you thinking about this?
oh no, it is gonna. People are gonna think I'm just gonna bash Lando, but no, Oscar's just gonna sit back and think, "Cool, man, I'm ready to take both of you." So,
Yeah,
and he's not gonna say anything
no,
because as you said, he'll. And the way that Oscar is with the media, on social media and camera, in every way, is so cool, calm, and collected. He doesn't say things like Lando does in the heat of the moment and burst and all that sort of things. So he'll just be like, "Cool, you take the limelight, and I'll just come and I'll battle Max."
yep. So yeah, we just had to put this one up, but yeah, for me, it's something that didn't need to be said. So anyway, we'll move along. We spoke about this last week, which is why I grabbed this one here. Alex Albon. This happened actually just 2 days after the show. I know it says 2 days ago, but I took this just after the show last fortnight. And Alex Albon says he is relishing the prospect of going up against Carlos Sainz. And in reading through the article from Crashnet, saying that he's really doesn't feel like there's any pressure on him whatsoever, um, as a Williams driver, which I found very, very interesting.
Well, it's great. It is great, and I hope they can both grow the team and go up. I'd love to see Williams back fighting for races and also all those sort of things. So if two drivers that can work out how to race together in a competitive way can work out for them, awesome. I'm very excited to see these guys race.
Yeah, and you spotted you called it last show where you did say um, this is one of those ones again where there's no lead driver in amongst all of the ones where there's a battle for that lead driver. So the first couple of races are going to be really interesting to see where that ends up, getting to.
Yeah, and I hope like with Carlos's experience and everything like that, and I hope with everything that's happened in the move to Williams and the maturity between them, I really hope they can learn how to work together and move forward as a team and not fight each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't see, last season, obviously Carlos in the Ferrari going for constructors and wins and everything like that. I maybe don't see Williams being up that far as the Ferrari was last season, but contending in the top 10, consistently getting points, fighting for podiums and things like that. Absolutely. I really, really hope we see it, even not this year, into 2026. But um, knowing that that's where they're going to work together to get higher in the constructors and get some more dollars and that sort of thing is just going to help them both get a better car.
Yeah, I think they're one to watch. I'm 100% with you. I think it's exciting to see what they're going to achieve this year. So yeah, definitely one in my view to watch. Finally, they made a change at Monaco. This was announced just the other day, but
So
it's not the
so
change.
Max,
It's not
so
the
Max can stop and get his pillow.
Yeah, it's not the change that needs to be made at Monaco. I understand introducing a second mandatory pit stop, or increasing the number of mandatory pit stops, as it says, is going to help. But all it means is that they're all going to run like the soft tire and then just blat the whole race, and it'll just be the same procession that it always is.
I really don't have anything to say about this. It's dumbfounding.
Maybe once the cars are a bit smaller again, the track will become a little bit more relevant.
Well, seeing the car changes over the years and the fact that it hasn't gotten any wider and it's always been the race that it is, it's yeah. Whoever's in pole's gonna, get close to winning, and unless something crazy happens.
This is a little bit of an older one, but it popped back up again, which is Max talking about sim racing being far more fun and far more competitive than Formula One in real life. We're both sim racers, and it's just one that I brought up because if his mindset, if this has been re-released, then obviously it's old news. If it's a new comment that he's made again about this season, which I don't believe that it is, then it shows you where his mindset's at for this coming Formula One season. So I just wanted to chuck it in there just as a one that we hadn't been able to get our heads across. Next up, some of the more funny things that have come across the ways. This going to run through this one.
Are we going Plan B?
C?
Plan C.
Yeah, Plan C. So obviously the communication breakdown that potentially will happen. We did touch on it last show about Ferrari and the issues that they may have in servicing Lewis properly. And F1 trolls hit the nail on the head here with this one. So
Big time.
hands out to them for that one. Got Got this mistake that I picked up. Well, I think it's a mistake. This is Formula One showing the schedule for the live thing and announcing on Sunday the 23rd that Aston Martin will be presenting the car of Alonso and Albon. So perhaps already the replacement rumours are true.
Just Stroll is gone, I think.
Well, the way that Daddy Stroll looks at the launch in the season launch, we'll get into in a minute, would suggest he looked pretty bored, and I think he wondered where all his money had gone. So, having said that, the lady that sang for them was fantastic. So, and the other one which I mentioned to you that I saw, which we had to look at, is the remarkable transformation that happens to anyone that is a co-driver of Max Verstappen. Have a look at at our mate. Look, he's a completely different guy.
Lawson's gone through, I don't know, like face reconstruction, maybe second puberty. I'm not sure what's happened, but he has literally completely changed.
Well, it turns out he just got a haircut, but
Is that all it was?
it made him look like I was looking through some pictures. I thought maybe Prince Charming or Charming out of Shrek. He looked like him, and then I realised he actually looks a little bit like Jamie Lannister off of the old Game of Thrones. So but he's gone from being a kid to being some sort of male model. It's unbelievable. So
absolutely.
Just from sitting next to Max. So Lawson's thickened up and ready to go.
He showed up his workout schedule and stuff. He looks like he's been working pretty hard on the off season. So
yeah, no, and fair play to him. I mean, you've got that opportunity. You've got to give it a crack. So that's it for the news from the fortnight in between. So jump straight into the F1 season launch. Now, this is an event that the FIA Formula One have been trying to get together for 75 years, and have just managed to do it where they've got everybody to launch their cars and team liveries at the same place. If you didn't know what it was about, except for those teams that did launch their liveries before this, and there were a couple that did that. I think Haas did it because they had a test day, and even though McLaren tested early,
I was pretty disappointed that McLaren's livery and their race suits aren't for the season. I loved that, right? The race suit and livery in McLaren looked phenomenal.
Yeah, that black race suit was fantastic. Probably the best one I've seen, but it would be very hot.
But they've got cool suits now, so they've got air conditioning for the first time. So you could take on a little bit of a hotter color.
This is true. They do. So they did this huge launch. It was on 7 a.m. Local time yesterday morning. And I've got to tell you, I only watched about 15 minutes of it live because the time didn't work. And I know you were in a similar state. So I sat down, I watched a highlights package and thought this isn't enough detail. So I went through and watched the full 2 hour and 11-minute extravaganza.
Yep.
I'm interested to get your thoughts on the event as a whole before we go in and have a look at the liveries individually.
It was a mixed bag. It was absolutely a mixed bag. Some of the teams' videos and entrances were phenomenal. Others looked like they were put together by a Year 9 media group.
Clip art.
Visa Cash Up Racing Balls. That was straight out of was it Channel 9's Street Talk before the footy show?
Yep.
Like that was 100%, and it wasn't even as good as that was 20 years ago. So,
what did you think about the host? So, I was talking earlier with one of our mates, and we were commenting about how rigid the FIA is. We spoke about the swearing rules and all that sort of stuff. And Jack's known for being a little bit loose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But still, I mean, I would have loved to seen Ricky Gervais host it. That would have been monumental. But second
would have
choice
been banned from TV from forever. But it would have been fantastic.
Wouldn't have cared. But second choice, I mean, it's an interesting choice. It's not who I thought they would have gone with. But what did you think of how he went?
It was. I didn't think it was the vibe that they would have gone with. I didn't think he brought what I thought to the table. But at the same time, like the complete opposite. I think with what he had to work with and the jokes that he did make and the things like that, it was as light humid or as humid as it could be with what I imagined a pretty strict uh, boundary for him to stick within.
I think that's probably a very fair assessment of it because the jokes. I mean, I've got a very dry sense of humor, um, but the jokes were borderline just dad jokes a lot of the time, which is fine. But it's probably all he had to work with. So I think he actually did it overall a really good job at keeping what's pretty dry entertainment pretty interesting.
Yeah, and that's yeah, exactly. I feel like he would have been sat down and said, "You're allowed to say these 10 jokes reordered for 2 hours, and that's it." And that's why we got the humor that we did. And yeah, I think in the scheme of things, he did pretty well. Until he stripped down into that red suit, and then I was a little bit.
Yeah, that was an interesting one that for for the cast to try and do in terms of a change of attire while he was doing it. But um, yeah, so I think he did a reasonably good job. So hats off to him for getting through that gig. The other thing I wanted to bring up was just to have a look at this lineup of musicians. I'm just shrinking this down here because I forgot to put this one on. So Machine Gun Kelly,
Oh man.
I'll go first on this. I said to you before the show, this will be the first F1 thing that he's been involved in that he actually remembers because the last time he was at the Formula One, I think he was on the dummy grid with Martin Brundle and he had no idea where he friggin' was. So um, I thought it was an interesting choice at the top of the show. Why they got some dry old English prunes moaning about how joyful their life is and take that to conclude the show, I don't know. I would have left. And then the techno bloke in the middle. Anyway,
It
look,
was a
I thought
it was a roller
overall,
it was a roller coaster.
I thought the
With
music choice overall, while they got four different genres, they could have just done without any of it, really. To be honest.
Yep. I feel like the cut scenes and the shows that the teams had produced and the music that came from those was enough to keep it sort of moving and keep it busy. Because I think if we just everyone just stood up there and be like, here's a car, here's another car, it would have gone dry pretty quick. So I think without the music acts, it would have been just as good as it was without like with them.
Yep,
Because the cut scenes kept it fresh and kept it
absolutely.
moving.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
they didn't need to have a cutscene, an intro, a music, then a cutscene, and then an intro.
Yep.
Yeah,
So I guess they got to have time to change over, and I get all that, and change the car over, and the platform, and all that sort of stuff. So I understand why they did it, but yeah, for mine, probably the thing that could have been left out of the whole show. So I did see this one in the clips. There's plenty of meme worthy content that came out of the whole thing, I think, but this was one that I think will get turned into plenty a meme, which is you can just see Jack while in the background here sizing something up. I'm not sure what it is. Lando looks totally unimpressed. Alonso looks unimpressed, as does Charles, although Charles has got a cheeky little smirk on his face. And Max looks like he already knew this information.
yeah. I was gonna
Um,
say it's
and
it looks like Lando's like my dirty little secret has been aired.
and Max's mate knows as well. He's laughing his
Yeah,
head off. So
big
I just
time.
had to chuck that one in there. So we'll have a look. Class of 25. So this is the quick rundown of all of the cars. We're going to go top to bottom here, and we're going to start out with Williams. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I really like car design. It's a pretty play on from last year. It doesn't look like much of a change in the vehicle itself, however. Um,
I think the biggest change for Williams this year is that had this happened last year, they would have been presenting an Excel spreadsheet.
well,
Um,
they weren't ready. They weren't
no,
ready
not
yet.
at
No,
all,
no,
not at all. So
no.
um, I think what you said earlier about being excited about where Williams is at and where Williams is going this season, over the build up to the start of the season, they're the team I think actually that are probably going to do best out of the also rant. I don't know. There's just a feeling about them when you listen to James talk, the team principal about it. The drivers that they've got are capable drivers, obviously, and they're just way more organised than they were before. So yeah, I'm quietly quietly waving a little Williams flag in the
with
background.
with James at the helm as well. Like we know, he comes straight from Toto. He comes from the Mercedes pedicure. Pedicure, that's the wrong word.
Pedigree. It's fun.
Mercedes,
It's funny.
Mercedes.
It's funny that you say that because, of course, they make dog food.
Yeah, yep. Mercedes pedigree. So having that extra help and then spending the time in the season beforehand and preparing and that's so before very very excited to see how they go and always excited to see Williams do well.
Yeah, and of course, Atlason, an Australian company, as their marquee name sponsor now as well. So another little Aussie connection there. Let's move on to Kick Sauber, who we did speak about at the top of the show. Look, their livery, not a lot of difference to last season, and I still think an interesting team to watch just with their driver combination.
Let's just hope that they get the wheel nuts threads correct this year.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, they're who knows? They can't do any worse than last season, obviously.
No.
So hopefully they've got something together, or they're working on a car for it next year. But only very subtle livery change for them with the kick color running straight up over the halo, but not a lot else. Next, I've got these in a weird order. I probably should have done McLaren last, but McLaren's car. We've got a little bit more to talk about with McLaren later in the show, which is why I put it a bit early on. Thoughts?
I'm a big fan of McLaren's liveries. The last couple of seasons, I think since they've gone away from the solid orange, I think their car looks phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think they did not the best, but probably the third best of all of the car intros.
Yep.
Because I love the whole McLaren backstory and Bruce McLaren and what he achieved and the McLaren company achieved on their way through with Formula One. So having the guys walk past the James Hunt World Championship winning McLaren, go past actually it wasn't, sorry, it was Emerson Fittipaldi's. My apologies, it wasn't Hunt, it was Emerson Fittipaldi's. And then walking past the likes of Hakkinen and Hamilton and what have you. That was really cool from a loving the old cars type of things, and that helps because James, sorry, not James, Zach Brown owns those. So even though they're McLarens, I think one of them is in his personal collection. So yeah, I thought they did a really good job.
I think it's from all the hatings out of McLaren that we've done. It's probably interesting to know we're actually both pretty fond of McLaren as a team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely I am. So just not so much of necessarily both the drivers. Moving on to Alpine. So they've done a little bit of weight loss program here because Jack looks exactly the same. And again, this might be just so they can change him into Pierre's car when Pierre's out of a seat. But that's their new weight saving. Their car, I didn't actually get a picture of it. I'll just bring it back up in the class of 25. It is the one on the bottom left. They've just basically added blue instead of pink to their livery. The car looks very smart. It really does. And again, another team that we're following closely this season.
I do like how Williams drivers both don't have appendixes and now Alpine's drivers both don't have hair. So they're just trying to save weight where they can.
You got to do what you can, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
There's a weight minimum. You've got to meet it one way or the other. Red Bull. So I am pretty sure that this bloke designed Red Bull's livery this year because I can't. It actually looks like an old fat Christian Horner. So if Christian Horner's doing the livery design, this is why it looks basically exactly the same as it did last season. And the season before that, and the season before that. So they're certainly trying to maximise the cap at Red Bull by not spending a lot of money on needless things like designing liveries.
No, yeah, and I'm not sure who Christian Horner is, but I know was that Jerry Holloway's +1.
Yes, it was.
Hollowell's +1.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the only funny joke he told. Moving on, we split it up a bit here. We've got Mercedes. Their car just almost actually looks the same as the Aston Martin, but they did it first. Not a lot to say about them this season other than they're both very thankful to have a seat.
There's not a lot of difference mechanically with those cars either, considering they're both running the same powertrain.
This is very true.
Uh,
The car that everyone was speaking about with the driver combination everyone wanted to speak about is Ferrari. It looks like a Ferrari. It's red. But I think Enzo would be turning in his grave with how much HP white is on his car.
it's still gone to that off burgundy red as well
Mm,
on that new color. They've gone away from that red,
yep.
which I thought they might have gone back to this season.
Yeah, well, it'll be. Yeah, like it was ironically, it was Enzo's birthday during the live event. 18th of February, I think it was 1898. He was born, just to make you feel like we've had Formula One around for a long time. But I thought they might have gone back to a more classic,
Yeah.
like 1950s Ferrari red, just because it's 75 years, and obviously they're the only manufacturer that's been involved in it since the start. I thought they might have done something like that, but I guess at the end of the day, semantics. For them, they're wanting to win a world title. They're not interested in what the likes of you or I think about their livery. Um, Aston Martin, they've just added some spokey dokes to the wheels for Lance's bicycle.
Do you reckon they make noise as he rolls around?
Absolutely.
Make it sound like a real car.
I'm looking forward to hearing about the internal complaint he lodges with HR because he was upstaged by the old fogey that races with him. Like, he said three things, which was great to be here. And then Alonso just upstaged him and said, now the most, what did he say? The most attractive car's now been launched. You can all enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah.
So, but look, I mean, Aston Martin's Aston Martin. I think they're planning
And
for next year.
and Alonso's Alonso. I don't think he would. I don't think he would ever let be upstaged in that sort of way. But uh, it was good to see that dynamic in public.
As I said, the launch that they did, thought it was really dry. I thought it was really boring. Um, but the lady that they had sing
Oh yeah,
was amazing. Outside of the fact that it probably didn't fit the dynamic, but yeah, her voice was fantastic. And as I said, I think Daddy Stroll finally realised where all the money he'd been spending went, which was to get her to sing at their launch.
yeah. Uh, like how you said that the dynamic of the show though, because I don't think there was a dynamic of the show. It was so all over the shop that you could have had a circus play in the middle of it with juggling fire or something, and it would have fitted as well.
And I guarantee you as well that when they were talking about it and they're throwing around ideas, that Lance was jumping up and down in the corner of the marketing department meeting saying, I want to be James Bond. And that's why they've done it. I mean,
So
aside
Daddy
of,
Stroll's
aside of
actually
the Aston Martin tie up with James Bond, let's ignore that bit.
that has nothing to
Nothing
do
to
with
do with
it.
it.
No, Daddy Stroll found his diary from when he was 10 years old, and it said, when I grow up, I want to be James Bond." And he's like, "Oh, son, this is how we can do it."
And we didn't talk about it. I'll go back very, very quickly. Red Bull, their video
Oh, that was phenomenal.
was that Liam Lawson at the start in a Toyota GT2000?
I've missed that if it was.
I'm pretty sure it was. I didn't have time to go and get snippets of the footage, but I'm pretty sure he's the first car in that whole setup of following the truck. And then to get, obviously, I don't know who most of those people were, but they're obviously social media influencers or influencers in the car scene. But to get so many different types and genres involved in it, I thought they did a fantastic job.
Well, Red Bull have their hands in everything, and when it comes to like, they're more of a
Didn't think of that.
action sports brand than they are an energy drink at this stage.
Yep.
They've done everything. So to incorporate like drifting, the hydro cars, like you've got all
Like bikes.
the BMX riders in the tunnel, the low ride, like all that stuff all to come together. I mean, obviously, it would have taken the guy that made the video one phone call, go, "Hey, it's me from Red Bull Marketing. Do you want to come and make a video?" And everyone's going to jump at it because, as I said, they've got their hands in everything. So to sort of get that all together was really, really cool. And to have that, no matter what walk of life you're from, because there was so many different
Yeah,
nationalities,
very true.
so many different likes. Like every car was different, the builds were different. Went from classic, big lumpy V8s and stuff to lowered tilty wheels and neons. Like it had everything. So to have that all rolled together, to then have them walking all in, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I think they did a fantastic job. Definitely the equal best, I think, of all of the launches. I did think, and we didn't touch on it. I thought Mercedes was all right. I thought Ferraris was pretty good as well. But yeah, I think Red Bull probably did the best job in the intro.
I know I touched on the dryness of the V carb one, but the V carb livery I thought was really good.
We're getting there.
Oh, sorry.
Keep your powder dry, sir. We are getting there. We'll just touch on Haas.
Oh, yep.
But for me, the only real change in their livery is they've added water to it. That's pretty much all I found out. But obviously, they've inverted the colours a little bit. And
That was just to show that they have grip in the wet.
yeah. So I thought their intro. I didn't realise 10 years in Formula One this year for Haas,
It's gone very quick.
and is an incredible achievement. And they did say that when they had, I think it was a rapper, the guy that country singer. I'm not sure who he was, but when they had him talking through their introduction, he was spot on in saying, you know, Haas, who used to run in F2 only and a very small team. I think Jean Haas manufactures CNC equipment as a company or something similar to that. And it's a massive achievement to still be in the sport 10 years later.
And they're still the smallest team in terms of employees and like staff and team and everything like that. They are still the smallest team. So yeah, I enjoy watching Haas. I really, really do. So let's let's see if they can get further this year.
Yeah, I don't think it's a team that anyone actually hates when they have some success.
No.
So here we are.
Oh, there it is.
So definitely for mine. In fact, this was the one that I was going to put up for you.
Yeah. Yes.
It
is. It just is.
It is an absolutely fantastic
Formula One car. That's what that is.
And to see, if you go back and look at the footage, and I think there's some pictures getting around of it as well. Isaac Hadjar hadn't seen the car, and so
really? Okay, yeah.
The look on his face when he revealed it tells
Genuine.
you how much he thought of it. Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. He's jaw on the ground. However, I was like, why does that car look so bloody familiar? And then I remembered it's because it used to be a Red Bull livery back in 2021. So I revert to my previous comment about Red Bull, even though they're not Red Bull, saving as much money as they can on livery design because they just flipped back through the archives and went, oh, well, here you go, Yuki, you can have this one. And that's where they've done it. And look where
they've blown out a couple of the old racing suits as well. Do these fit?
Well, they would have had to put them through the dryer a few times to get them to fit Yuki, but there you go. So not pretty ominous though, because that Red Bull that I found the picture is parked on the grass. So
Yes.
we'll see. And I did like how Yuki said that one of the features that he liked the most about the new livery is that he hopes that the team don't have to scrape too much gravel out of the car during the season.
Yeah.
And they wonder why he didn't get the main driver's seat.
No.
Wonder why.
He's had so much time to learn how to talk to a camera, and there's certain people that know how to do it, and certain people that can't. And there's certain people that just don't want to. Kimi Räikkönen comes to mind, where
but he's still awesome at it because he doesn't want to be there.
Incredible at it, but he doesn't. You can tell when he wanted to say certain things, and he just had the sunnies on and looked, and that was it. And he didn't have to say anything, so he didn't implement himself any further. Yuki would have shot himself in the foot twice in the off season if he raced for Red Bull.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see how he goes as the co-driver.
I did also like the VCARB amp up man that was walking around on the street telling them that VCARB had 6 foot drivers, 2 of them put together. I was really, that whole thing was very interesting. I wasn't sure if it was working for them or against them.
Yeah, it wasn't one of the highlights for me. That was actually where I turned off early this morning. And there's one livery that they didn't reveal that I wanted to just throw out there, which is this one here.
Yeah. I don't know why they haven't got this one out there.
The Cadillac livery for Danny Rick and Sergio Perez for next season. So just put that one out there. Apparently it's happening. So you got to believe everything you see on the internet. But yeah, this is I literally brought this up right at the end because if that happened, talk about marketing in America. For Danny Rick, and obviously Sergio's Mexican, but aside of the wall, they're all good there. So this would be huge. But I saw this car and I thought it looks absolutely fantastic. And I was hoping that there might be some sort of comparison within the liveries that were launched, but there wasn't really. But yeah, I just that one there. So just quickly, obviously, I think it's a dead set giveaway. Which one is your favorite livery of the launch?
Yes, absolutely. Which is conflicting. It's so conflicting that the favorite car I like, I don't think much more of it. So, but
No,
the V Carb livery was awesome.
yeah, I agree. I think they nailed it. And I think Red Bull nailed the intro. But I think, as you said as well, all of the teams did a good job getting stuff together. They're not at the end of the day. That's not the entertainment field they're in. But I think they did a good job. Success or prefer not to see it again?
Stepping stone.
Yep.
I think they need to. I think it was really really good. I think they can take some positives from it and have that entertainment side of it because as we've seen with like we've spoken about Drive to Survive and bringing more people to the show and things like that. There's things. This is the type of stuff that will bring more people to watch Formula One. That will continue to sell out stands, will continue to sell merch and things like that for the people that weren't exactly in it and they understand more and they learn the teams. I think they just need to iron it a little bit.
A question without notice. What would you like to see them bring into it? What do you think?
Let
What do you think could make it better?
less, I think less time. Um, the driving videos and everything like that was great, but I think less time with the presenters and that sort of thing, and more times with the drivers, I think would be more so.
Because I think you've landed on a really interesting point, which is the drive to survive all of sport, because that's the first one that did it. But then there's been others since. There's been one about tennis that no one watched.
I was about to ask what was there.
There was one about golf, which I had a look
Mhm.
at. But Drive to Survive, and I think some of the characters in it are the reason why it was so successful. But that has given Formula One, if they hadn't had it before, a backhand to the face about what fans need to get engaged in the sport. And that what they need is the same thing that everyone's looking for at the moment in all of the media they consume, which is authenticity.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that last night wasn't authentic. And I think the difficulty that F1 have got with trying to create something authentic is the F1 themselves. Because of the rule and the behaviour expectations of drivers as model citizens. And I didn't bring it up, but one of the other things I had in the file for this week was, the really really tall Red Bull pit guy who's got the dreadies.
Yes, yeah. Yep.
So,
I think I know the one you're talking about.
so
The clip that he put there, the comment
yeah,
he put out.
that he
Yep.
came out and said basically it's not Formula One's job to educate or to rule with my children. That's my job to
It,
make an example as their parent. I think that's what F1 needs to get away from doing. And if they put on, if the one thing that I would ask, that I would suggest that they do for the show next year is to make it more authentic, and even down to the presenter, who we've already said did a really really good job with, I'm sure, a very strict set of rules. It was inauthentic for the way he normally is, presenting the way that he did,
yeah, absolutely.
and that hurt it.
Yep. Yeah, completely agree. And I don't mean like to go off the other end and make it completely loose, but there needs to be, yeah. I think bringing the drivers in, having the conversations with the drivers, and having a little bit of banter amongst the drivers themselves shows that they're human and shows all that sort of stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, look, I think they did a good job overall. Looking forward to see what they do for F1 76 or 16, depending on which way they go with the logo. Only a couple more things to cover in the show. I managed to grab hold of a few images from the new McLaren and having a look at what is different. So the big thing this season, obviously, is there is investment in moving these cars forward, but they're not spending as much as they probably would because 2026, new regs, new cars, etc. So just seeing what people actually have done with the cars, and I came across a couple of bits of content today that were put together by other content creators, so we're not taking credit for these. I think this one was put together by Ohad Bark, or that's where the post was from. Um, so this is the McLaren MCL 39 and the MCL 38, and it's in the same livery. So same livery they ran last season. Now this image we've got on the screen, it really highlights the change in the side pods, which is where a lot of the teams have been spending their time in trying to develop. Obviously, airflow is the key for generating downforce and what they're looking to do and efficiency. And there's some big changes here in the way McLaren have built the side pods on these cars.
The whole geometry of the side of the car is completely different.
Yeah, so they've gone a wider deck on the side pod. They've narrowed the belly of the side pod. So when I say narrowed, they've actually squashed it down to put more flow underneath the pod. And then they've introduced, which we'll show you another picture of in a second, where the air intake is on the car. They've completely changed for the side pod the way that looks.
So even to the top of the car, like the shapes and everything, it's phenomenally different.
So this is what we were just talking about here in terms of it. So top of the screen is the 38, bottom of the screen is the 39, and thank you to Auto Racer for this one. You can see how much when we talk about making squashing it down, how much narrower the entry is, and then it's difficult to see here, but they've actually brought a lip in over the top of the pod, to try and help cut the air into the pod and create that little bit more downforce. It's just on the front of the mirror there. Just see if I can find that picture actually and bring that up. It's also, you can see here they made a small change in the suspension on the front of the vehicle as well. Let me just see. I'm sure I had an image of it here. I'll just quickly bring it up if I find it. And all right, so
That's
this is
that's
the
the
one.
yeah, that's the one that I was going through, looking at it before.
But so this is the change they've made. This is the other big change they made, which you just alluded to, Rhys.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of having like that's just changed it to oh, there we go. I was
Yeah,
going to say
that's better.
I was trying to do the shapes with my hands.
There you go.
So the 38, like the airbox inlet has like almost what looks like 1.5 times its sized. So instead of being sort of circled square, it's sort of turned into a complete oval. So it'll just be able to bring that more straight into it.
Yeah, like they've squashed it down again, so they're really going to try and make the car more sleek. And obviously, I don't know none of us do know what's going on under the cowling and all that to warrant the changes in these designs. But obviously, some of it's going to be efficiency related. These side pods, you can just see in terms of surface area and how much it sticks out of the car. How different the airflow is going to be around that pod and what they're going to be able to generate on the skirt of the car as well on the in terms of ground effects. Um,
Which is also going to be interesting with that nose design as well. So obviously we had like the buoyancy of the cars and the bounce that the cars have had in this generation. With that change in the nose, if that's going to put how much downforce that's going to actually put on it and increase that sort of buoyancy, or if it's going to sort of level it out.
yeah, and I know they complain a lot about the bounce and stuff like that. So even lastly, just down to the edge of the wing, you can see that in terms of the shape and the runoff of the fins, and that's probably got to do with as well the deflection rules or the changes in the deflection rules. Um, but yeah, there's big changes there, and obviously that rear wing, we haven't seen a lot about that, but there's those changes we spoke about in terms of how far they can open, and I'm sure that because of that, they will have redesigned the way that wing works in DRS to try and still get as much advantage out of DRS as they can with that reduced wing opening that's coming into effect this season.
And remember they were talking about the flex in the wing and the nose last season as well, and if it was too much and teams were getting told to take things off and change it. So I'm wondering if they've taken sort of what they learnt with what was working, but they had to change it, whether or not they can make that firmer to their advantage.
So yeah, just some interesting changes there. And again, I don't think any team will. I saw actually in testing because McLaren were testing earlier on, and actually it was Ferrari as well, saying that the car's like half a second quicker than it was last season. So that's a huge jump. We haven't seen any of that sort of information from Red Bull or anything like that, but I think their test was today or is today our time.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what comes out between now and the next show.
Yeah, very, very exciting for what's to come. I'm just even in the last sort of week seeing what we've seen. It's just making me so much more excited for the season. Not that I thought I could be any more excited, but I'm counting down the days.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting through to the end of things here. You punched this one through, which was interesting right at the end of the day. We've just snuck it in here. So um, take us through this one.
Yes. So I was looking at a few things, with obviously another young driver coming through in decent machinery and things like that. So if he wins, I think it's in the first three Grand Prix, if Kimi wins, he will break Verstappen's record for being the youngest Formula One driver to win, which I didn't think was going to be something that was possible, but no, it absolutely is.
What else did they bring up there in terms of the three records?
I'm just trying to find what it, because I had it down.
The interesting thing about Max's record being the youngest driver is how much younger some of these guys are starting to make it into Formula One from F2 as well. Um, and so I don't know whether or not that's one of those records that Max will hold that will stand
So I
too
think the
long.
youngest driver in Formula One, I think Max will forever hold that because to my knowledge, they changed the rulings not too long ago. Because Max was 17, I believe, when he first
Go
got
to
into
Toro Rosso.
Formula One. So
Yep.
now I think the youngest age is now 18.
Okay.
Um, so Kimi's records that he can break in that aspect will be, so the 2016 Spanish GP, Verstappen was the youngest driver to lead a lap. Um, so if he so he can beat that, Kimi can beat that record. He has three Grand Prix to make it to the podium. That'll break Verstappen's record there as well. And then Verstappen holds the record at 18 years and 226 days old to win, to be the youngest Formula One winner. So if Kimi wins in Australia, China, or Japan, he will break Max's record there as well.
Yeah, it's probably the one that he's more likely to break, depending on where Mercedes is at and obviously where he gets to as well after we have a look at, Australia. And that leads very well into the last bit of the show, which is just to we have a quick chat about Australia. There was some information getting around about some changes that to the track in Australia, and they're all superficial changes to an extent. There's some ripple strip changes to flatten them out to help with the cars. There's some gravel trap changes, but really there's no changes to the track. So just what obviously being the season launch, it's easy to ask what are we looking forward to. Um, I think we will get another show in before that. So we've got Bahrain testing coming up,
Yep.
and then we have the Australian GP. So I might leave that as a question on notice for you for next show. We are doing some work in the background as well on a tipping competition of some description to run into the season. So keep an eye out for that one as we continue to push content out on our social media channels.
I am going to keep that question, but I am just excited to have my life be controlled about cars driving in circles. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's good. I'm really looking forward to those weeks where it's back to back to back,
Oh,
and where we get favourable times in Australia because it's not in Europe yet. So the season can't start quick enough, but fortunately we don't have too long to wait.
no, absolutely.
So I'm gonna suggest that you take us out today. You did some work on the introduction, which people have seen at the top of the show. That's all Rhyss's handiwork, including authoring the song and the beats behind it. And we've also got a new outro for you to have a listen to as well. Again, Rhyss's handiwork. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks. As I said, make sure to drop us a follow across YouTube and all of our socials, which are on the outro as well if you're not aware of them. And YouTube's where we would absolutely love your support, along with Spotify. And I'll let Rhyss explain this one on the way out of the show.
Thank you. Yeah, enjoy the song on the way out. Just make sure we were talking about before. Just hit subscribe and a like, and then just drop some future predictions in the bottom as well. So not much more to say. The song covers it all. So enjoy it, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Well, that's a checkered flag. We're at the end of the race. Thanks for tuning in. You kept up the pace. Rhyss and Stu are signing off today, but don't forget to like, subscribe, drop your prediction.